All humans are traumatized, and they are dissociated most of the time. This is why they believe they are their ego selves, which have been programmed. Mind control has occurred on your planet for many millennia, and many are now becoming aware of the programs by the CIA and other institutions. But this has been done en masse to all humans for far longer than you could imagine. You have been programmed with traumatizing images and raised under stress so that you are all dissociated, and thus you inhabit a split mind. If you were not traumatized, you would be able to connect to your true self, your own divinity, and you would thus be guided to a higher awareness or perspective that would allow you eventually to see through the ego mind. This is why you have been kept in trauma. It was the only way to keep you from waking up to who you truly are.
You found this because you're in the middle of a spiritual awakening. You are waking up ahead of the collective, and it's tough. You feel like everything is shifting, because it is. We're shifting collectively to a new level of consciousness, and therefore a new reality. The old world and all its systems are dissolving, and so is our sense of who we are. You're not broken, you're not lost, you're not insane. You're just between selves. As the Council of Light explains, you have started to awaken to the truth of your multidimensional nature, but your consciousness is very divided between the old self that you thought you were and the new self. You are between selves, and that is much harder than anything you have ever known. You're exactly where you're meant to be. You're remembering the truth, why you came back to Earth. But you will keep getting sucked back into the illusion until you learn how to liberate yourself. Many of us are now seeing beyond the veil, seeing the darkness of the matrix programming, and it's overwhelming. You are a divine, multi-dimensional light being, a soul in Earth School again. I get it. I live this. I was once a lawyer, and then spent years in multiple careers unknowingly preparing for this path as a teacher and guide. For over a decade, I've been channeling the Council of Light and supporting people on this very journey. Now I walk between worlds, navigating the higher dimensions while still trying to manage my 3D life. My spiritual journey got more and more intense as I began to experience being in my light body, meeting my I Am presence. And then, in January 2023, I experienced 3 weeks of Christ consciousness, bliss, divine union, and the ability to slip in and out of the 5th dimension. And then came the crash, a 2-year-long dark night of the soul. Every childhood wound, every karmic pattern, every self-limiting belief surfaced, and I was brought to my knees. The ministry of eternal light is my mission, assigned to me by the Council of Light, to support awakening souls in shedding the programmed self and embodying our true frequency as multidimensional beings. They've asked me to share their messages and all the tools they've given me alongside my very human and messy ascension process. And that's what I do in this podcast. I'm not here to preach at you. I have battled addiction. I have questioned my worth in every way. I still work on feeling fully worthy of the mission to create a ministry. I am learning that it is only through complete love and acceptance of myself, of all my flaws and chaos and disorganization, that I can let go of shame and feel the divine love that surrounds us. I'm creating this podcast not for validation or approval, but because this is what brings me the greatest joy, serving the light of God as an ascension guide, helping humans remember our divinity together. If this podcast speaks to you, if something in you exhales when you hear these words, know that this is just the beginning. The ministry offers self-study audio programs filled with transmissions from the Council of Light, created to help you shift out of the suffering of ego consciousness and into the truth of who you are. Visit the ministryofeternallight.com to explore.
The ministry of eternal light is for the ones who said, I'll awaken in a body. I'll remember inside the illusion. Everything I offer is created to support us as we do exactly this. We are nearly midway through 2025, and we are already seeing the mass mental breakdown that the Council of Light has been talking to me about for about 2 years now. I'm having personally a lot of friends, clients reaching out, literally just feeling like they can't find the light. They are besieged by problems, all of their childhood stuff coming up, relationships breaking down, just mass confusion and chaos in people's lives. And of course, we're seeing this so individually and then on a macro scale collectively as all of our systems dissolve. I wanted to jump on and share a message with you about navigating a world gone mad as the earth ascends. This particular message I have included it in a program called Navigating the Insanity of Ascension. It is a unique program because I have included all of these messages received from the Council of Light about navigating the insanity, about ego dissolution, about exactly what is going on and why we have to lose our programmed minds in order to ascend, because that is what is keeping us entrapped in this false matrix system. As you wake up and realize you are actually a multidimensional divine being, you are part of God, you are creating this entire illusion from your own consciousness. It is a huge thing to process intellectually, spiritually, physically, on every level. And of course, doing this ahead of the collective, although there are millions of us, is super, super challenging. So suddenly you find you're in a different reality to those around you because you are waking up from the illusion. Although one of the main ways in which you're going to feel insane is, despite now knowing the truth, you keep falling back into this matrix system again and again because the programming is so very strong. So I have been making some notes of all the messages from the council around insanity. I will bring through more, and the specific ways in which we are going to feel like we are losing our minds. I want to share the message from the Council of Light. You are a powerful, multidimensional light being. You know this. However, you've incarnated as a human, which entailed amnesia at birth, so you forgot entirely who you are and where you come from. You were then programmed by the dark force rulers of Earth with the fear, shame, and unworthiness programs. You have started to awaken to the truth of your multidimensional nature, but your consciousness is very divided between the old self that you thought you were and the new self. This is very hard for you to manage, and you keep thinking you don't know who you are because you don't. You are between selves, and that is much harder than anything you have ever known. Just like in multiple personality disorder, which we shall explain another time, a person moves between different egoic selves. This is perhaps helpful when you see how a person can have multiple personalities, which engage when the person is dissociated as a result of trauma. Notice that the ego is a construct that a person creates from various experiences in their life, particularly memories and stories associated with those memories. This self is then activated at particular times. In the same way, you have been programmed to believe you are your ego self, which is simply a construct of past experiences, but it is ever shifting. There is no reality to it, just patterning over time according to the pockets of density left energetically present in the etheric field. All humans are traumatized, and they are dissociated most of the time. This is why they believe they are their ego selves, which have been programmed. Mind control has occurred on your planet for many millennia, and many are now becoming aware of the programs by the CIA and other institutions. But this has been done en masse to all humans for far longer than you could imagine. You have been programmed with traumatizing images and raised under stress so that you are all dissociated, and thus you inhabit a split mind. If you were not traumatized, you would be able to connect to your true self, your own divinity, and you would thus be guided to a higher awareness or perspective that would allow you eventually to see through the ego mind. This is why you have been kept in trauma. It was the only way to keep you from waking up to who you truly are. We understand that many of you feel like you are losing your minds, and that you have been taught that any form of mental issue is terrifying and lands you in a mental institution. This is a narrative programmed into you. This, of course, arouses much fear, as you have seen the poor treatment of those who are mentally ill in your society. It is part of the terrible things that have happened during the domination of your planet by the Dark Ones. We would like you to begin an entirely new understanding of mental illness, what it actually means and what you are truly seeing, as opposed to what you have thought you were seeing. This will be the case with many so-called illnesses upon your planet. Already people are realizing that the truth about cancer, for example, is not what you have been told. There is much to wake up to, as you would term it, and we do not want human beings to feel bombarded, although we believe this is what is happening. You are losing your programmed minds, yes, but this is necessary, as we have begun to explain to you before, in order to lay aside the programmed mind. This was how you saw yourself, because remember that everything is only a perspective. All the different dimensions are different perspectives, so from the higher dimensions you can view your life as we do. We are able to hold multiple perspectives on a situation. That's what multidimensionality means. Imagine being able to inhabit the perspective of your mother, father, and siblings as well as your own when you look at a situation. Can you just imagine this for a moment? That you could simultaneously see and hold all the perspectives at the same time. You would consider this a supermind. Well, we are wanting you to know that you are developing this ability. Remembering it more precisely, can you see that as one becomes multidimensional, there would not be a need to fight others because you would see a situation from their point of view at the same time as your own? Yes, we can feel your excitement at this new perspective we have offered you. What you are learning to do now is to see that life as you experience it is simply made up of the perspective your consciousness, which is what you are, takes of it. So you are narrating the story that determines your entire experience of life. You perceive what is happening in a certain way through a filter, and that is what you experience in your movie of life. When you learn, you can shift the narration. Think of a voiceover for a scene. Yes, this is a good way to teach people, dear one. And in this way, this is them speaking to me, you and we work well together, as your agile mind often has a relevant image from your life that can better be used to explain to your fellow lightworkers how something works. We enjoy these conversations too, and are glad you wish to receive these lessons from us. Shall we continue? You are providing the voiceover for the movie of your life, and this creates the viewer's experience. You can play scary music and explain what is happening on the scene is very sinister and imply or say that it is leading to the protagonist's downfall. Or you could play upbeat music and explain that this is the start to an amazing new chapter in her life. You create the story in this way, as you then start to feel emotions related to the story which affect cellular memory and expand or contract your energetic field. What we try to do as guides is to give you another perspective on your life, so you start to view it differently. This is also what coaches and therapists do if they are good. They are able to reframe a person's situation so they see it in a new light. The new perspective allows the person to start to feel more positive emotions, and as their energetic field expands again, they are able to steer themselves in a more positive direction. It is like they start on an upward spiral. You are always spiraling, dear ones. Your Merkaba is never still. On and on you spin, miniature galaxies, each one of you. We are not able to interfere with your lives in the ways humans often wish we were. But once the game, as you sometimes term it, is seen, then you are able to see why it would not make sense for us to intervene. You are in your own fractal classroom of consciousness, creating each scene according to what is inside you, and as you learn this is what you are doing, you develop mastery. It is a process of, so if I do this, then that happens, and if I do that, then something else happens. In this way you learn, just as children learn as they navigate their way around early childhood. It is simply more obvious when you observe a child. You have less perspective when it comes to observing your own learning. As way showers and light workers, you are experiencing ego dissolution, the disidentification with how you once viewed yourself. And you are sometimes able to move into the higher self, but not always. This is leaving you very uncertain of what is going on and whether you are insane. We wish you to carry this message far and wide now. You are not insane. You are waking up to the insanity that has infected your planet, which is having you all live a lie as to your true nature, your divinity, your multidimensionality. The effect of this cannot be underestimated. Be gentle on yourselves, as this process has been harder on some of you perhaps than we know, as our daily experience is very, very different. Let us leave it at that for now. You are giving up who you have thought yourself to be, and this is tumultuous. It also means the aspects of your lives you built as a result of ego consciousness must go. They will fall away. The external is a reflection of the internal, so what is built from ego must fall away. This means many of you are losing credentials you thought you needed to be validated by something outside of yourself. You are losing money if money defined your worth. You are losing partners where these were built on your ego's needs and not from your soul's needs at this juncture. So much is falling away, and you can either cling or surrender to it as you travel ever upwards in a spiral towards your ultimate ascension homecoming. You cannot fight this process. It will cause much suffering. Look upon your life, the one you knew, with such love and gratitude for the extraordinary experience it provided you with, how it was an essential part of bringing you to this now moment, awake and aware and on a path that few have yet ventured on. You are forerunners and warriors of light, brave ones. Gather and seek solace in each other's arms as you let go of the past, including your own past sweet selves. New ways are coming, and there will be so much joy, but we know the letting go is hard for humans. Think of a past relationship that ended and how heartbroken you felt. But then think of how another better suited person came along and walked the next part of your journey with you. You could not foresee this would happen, but it did. Trust now that as you let go, better things will come. You will not sink into obscurity with no friends and no inspirational service to fill your heart with love and joy. But maybe at this time you feel alone and uninspired. It is just a letting go. Bless each thing as it passes from your hands. We know this pains you, dear one, but remember, you can take a different perspective. Focus on all you are gaining in this extraordinary time and the miracles that are about to unfold. So, as usual, there are many layers and beautiful pieces of wisdom to pull out and go through, and I have realized that it is very helpful for some people to be able to go into the messages a little bit. Some people may just want to listen to a message and that's it. So if you want to press stop now, you can do that. And if you want to hang out with me for a couple of minutes, let's look at some of the parts of this message that have been brought through, and let's integrate and think about how we're going to embody these pieces. I want to mention some of the ways in which people experience the insanity of ascension. Now, we know that we are not losing our minds, although those around us may fear for our sanity. I've definitely been told I am ungrounded. I have been accused by a family member of being psychotic. I have been told that I appear unhinged, and the more you put yourself into the public sphere, as I'm doing now on YouTube, Instagram, the more we kind of, put ourselves out there and have to expect that those who do not understand the nature of reality are going to judge us. And we also need to be aware and mindful that a lot of this can be a projection from our own consciousness. So if you are not grounded in yourself, you are going to, have that reflected back to you. And then on the other hand, you also need to just let go of the haters and realize that people don't understand what is going on. So they're going to just project all of their stuff onto you. So we're not losing our minds. And one of the things that I'm always cautious to say, because I was once upon a time a lawyer, is that I'm not a mental health professional and I do not give medical psychological advice. I'm only sharing the wisdom of the Council of Light through my channel, which has helped so many people, and my own experiences of ascension. So different ways in which people experience the insanity of ascension. One of them is the shifting timelines. So suddenly finding yourself in a room and not knowing how you got there. I was reading various accounts this morning of people having all sorts of experiences where they suddenly were like, how did I end up wearing these clothes? So moments where you have shifted and it feels like time is suddenly lost. It's becoming more and more frequent. And of course, I'm sure if you're watching this that you've seen videos around the Mandela effect and all sorts of situations where you suddenly see something and it's not as you remembered it. So these are experiences that may make you think that you're losing your mind. Being very scattered. I have a specific message on being scattered that I will share shortly. And the experience of being scattered is going to increase for those of us on the ascension path as we find that we are moving between different dimensional realities. And so, of course, there are parts of us literally that are in different dimensions and moving back and forth between the different egoic selves. So being scattered is a hallmark of the ascension experience. It is necessary. As an aside, I want to note that so many people, myself included, get so frustrated because we want to be further along. We want to be, in the bliss, in enlightenment, oh my God, can we get this stage over with? But it is explained to me again and again by the council that this process is being tempered because we would entirely lose our minds if it were to happen too rapidly. And so it has to happen according to your soul's blueprint and according to your ability to physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually process what is going on. The influx of light is bringing all of our shadows, all of our trauma, everything right up to the front, projecting it then, from consciousness into your lived experience. And if this was happening too fast, it would firstly just be too much for you to cope with. And secondly, they are helping me understand that the light literally, if you think of it as an electrical current, you cannot plug yourself into more of a voltage than the product, can currently cope with. And so the process has to be tempered, and therefore we have to, acclimate to the light. We may desire to be further along, but we can only be where we are. So to return to the different ways in which you may be experiencing the insanity of ascension, dipping in and out of feeling like this very heavy sense of this 3D life, and then moving into a freer, lighter sense of being, and back and forth. So feeling like a yo-yo. And I've recorded a lot of messages in which I speak about being on a roller coaster and how exhausting that is. So a lot of the messages that I've brought through are how to move beyond this going back and forth between the heavy density of being trapped in the programs and then jumping out and feeling free and like, oh my God, anything is possible, and sensing light and divinity and abundance and joy and gratitude, and then being in the state of complete doubt and confusion the next. It is very exhausting to be a yo-yo. And Kerry Kay has a video in which she talks about specific categories of light workers, one of them being the yo-yo. To understand for a second energetically what's happening is every time you move yourself from that density of the 3D programming out of it, you're creating a bridge of light energetically. And so if you can imagine like a time-lapse camera, all of the like movements back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you are creating this bridge of light that others will travel on. It's an energetic pathway between the lower realms and the higher realms. So you are actually being of service to humanity, although it may not feel like it. And I must say, I have been like, I'm tired of being the yo-yo. I know I might be building a bridge, but can we get this part over with? But it is a different perspective when you realize that every time you reach, you are creating a bridge of light. So, different ways. So, coming to know that you are divine and that this has been suppressed from you, and that you have grown up and been programmed your entire life into the enslavement system of the false matrix. That alone is definitely going to, give you grounds for feeling insane, particularly when you may be the only one in your family, the only one in your community, area, friendship circle, whatever, who is awakening in this way. It is massive. There are no words to explain the enormity of realizing that you're a divine being and you're not who you thought you were. Another one is just knowing that you are creating it all. So you've woken up, if you're watching this, you are realizing I am the creator of my reality. So I'm aware of this. Okay, I understand this. I've got it intellectually. And yet you are still experiencing your old patterns so intensely and still feeling like a victim at times. And then you want to go mad with frustration at this seemingly slow speed at which you're waking up. So this is part of, the earlier point that I made, that we are going as fast as we are able to go, and that ascension is not a linear process, that it is taking place. Remember, you're an energetic soup. You're an etheric field. There is so much that is going on, and a lot of this is unseen. So I have a lot of messages around really encouragement that we are doing so much better than we think in terms of our ascension. We may feel like, oh, but my external life hasn't changed, and this and that, and oh my God, look at the state of the world. But really, we are making enormous progress, and we just don't see it because we don't see ourselves energetically. And so our beloved guides are saying, we see your light shine ever brighter. They see that we are shedding density, that we are starting to become more luminous. They have said you're holding more light in your body than at any other time in history, in any other lifetime, parallel lifetimes. But we are literally starting to glow as we come into contact with our own God presence. And so although you may feel you are circling, please know that you are advancing rapidly, and I will continue to share all the messages, of which I have many, particularly those because I have been through such a long dark night of the soul for 2 years that a lot of the messages were just encouraging me to continue and showing me, the enormous shifts and changes that are taking place, even if I don't feel like I'm aware of them. So in multiple ways, realizing you're divine is going to create a sense of insanity. Like, okay, how do I even begin to wrap my head around this? The people around me aren't experiencing this. The going back and forth is making me feel insane. And then, of course, as you become aware of the false matrix programming, the dark ones, and what has happened on the planet, going down those rabbit holes, again, another cause for feeling insane, because you suddenly realize that everything is trying to kill us. And I say that because it is, and yet we're still here. And they talk about black pilling people because there is a huge amount of darkness that we have to reconcile ourselves with. When you start going, oh my gosh, this is toxic, oh my gosh, that is toxic, and the light bulbs, I've just been buying new light bulbs that aren't LED, and they're not even legally allowed to be in this country anymore. You may not import light bulbs that aren't LED, and yet LED are really bad for us on a whole lot of levels. So then it's aluminium, and then it's plastic, and it's plastic wrap, and it's the schooling system, and it's the the banking system, and it's the legal system, and it's just all of these foods and all the preservatives and the television, and it's like it's very easy to get completely overwhelmed. And of course there are so many truthers exposing what needs to be exposed, but it is easy to be caught up in this like insanity of, oh my God, is this the world I've been living in? Alongside this comes awakening to what has been done to children on this planet. And that's not something I want to go into in this video, but when you realize the extent of the satanic agenda and what has been happening to children, there is a level of darkness that is very difficult to grapple with. To wrap that up, I will say that I have been shown that the only way to cope with this like influx in a way of seeing more darkness is to bring more light in. So that is connecting to your divinity on a daily basis. It is making decrees, it is calling in the light, and it is spending time bathing your body literally in the light of God. So multiple ways in which we are experiencing the insanity of Ascension. And then to just go back to some of the pieces of the message for a moment. So this message started with this explanation: you've incarnated as a human, but this entailed amnesia at birth. If you're watching this, I know that you are well aware that we came in here, there is a veil, and you cannot remember what came before. So we have all forgotten entirely who we are and where we come from. We were then programmed by the dark force rulers of the earth with fear, shame, and unworthiness programs. Of course, the whole point of this is the suppression of our ascension, because if we are living in fear and shame and unworthiness, we will not discover our divinity. And that is why the situation in humanity is like it is right now. But now we are waking up, and we are divided between this old self that we thought we were, and which every billboard and every program that's ever run us, and every television and book and everything, and our parents, like every program is telling us you are this person, and you are now awakening and realizing I'm divine, I'm multidimensional, I exist in all these dimensions. I am not who I thought I was. I'm not the idea, the story that I've carried about myself. I can change the story, and really realizing that you have made yourself up. And again, lots more messages about that, but you have made up who you think you are, which means you can change the story. So we are between selves, and it's harder than anything you have ever known. And I certainly can say that it's the hardest thing that I've ever done, and I look at some of the experiences I've had in my life and things that I've transcended, and including addiction and eating disorders and all of these things. And honestly, this awakening, harder than any of them. You have been programmed to believe you are your ego self, which is simply a construct of past experiences, but it is ever shifting. There is no reality to it, just patterning over time according to the pockets of density left energetically present in the etheric field. You will have noticed in your own life that you revert to different selves depending on when there is a trigger. So one personal story I can share with you, it happened probably a decade ago. I got very triggered during an altercation with my husband. Our partners tend to bring up the most severe childhood wounding. This is all part of how we learn and grow here, and we will project our childhood wounds into the relationship, forcing our partners to behave in a way similarly to those who may have harmed us in the past, in order to give us another opportunity, hopefully in safety now, to heal that wound. So in this particular instance, my husband eventually in this altercation turned and went, well, where, like that. And I hit the wall. I literally just, I saw red, and I grabbed a shoe and I threw it, and it actually hit the corner of his head. He looked at me in such shock, and I was deeply ashamed, like that I'd, resorted to physical violence. I was like, oh my God, who was that? And in therapy, I was able to break down what had happened and realize that this was a pre-verbal part of me, and it was related to my relationship with my sister. I've had a lot of stuff to process around my relationship with my sister. And so this instance was a pre-verbal Amanda, where there was nothing I could do in that moment. I was literally back in about a 3-year-old self. So when you look at what the Council of Light is explaining here, that there are pockets of density which are left present in our field, that's a 3-year-old self coming forward. Most recently this year, I've been dealing with a lot of the 6-year-old Amanda coming forth, and again, dealt with, been receiving some amazing guidance from the Council of Light about what is going on there. And I know that this is valuable to share. So as vulnerable as it is, although that doesn't faze me, I am going to share more about how we revert to childhood and what's actually going on there. So moving on in this message, all humans are traumatized. So when you take the perspective now that we are divine, multidimensional beings who've been squished and controlled into these believing that we are these, weak humans descended from monkeys, and we are little more than animals. Not that we are divine creators of our entire external reality. Of course, we are traumatized. And when you just think of all the systems on the planet and what they've done to us, we are dissociated most of the time. So that fear and the fact that we are reliving all the past traumas and that we have no idea who we are keeps us dissociated and keeps us not being in our bodies. It is very important that we start to understand what is accessing my higher self. In other words, not being the limited, version of Amanda, but becoming and inhabiting my higher self, the immensity of who I am, versus checking out and dissociating and not being present in my body. And that is a big subject, but I'm going to break it down into a lot of other messages. So stay tuned and subscribed, because this whole thing around dissociation is really, really important. We can only ascend in the body. And therefore doing disembodied meditations and not being in our bodies can be detrimental. And I'm not saying don't meditate, but this whole idea of knowing when we are accessing the higher self through an embodied state and when we are dissociating because of trauma, very important. So mind control, again, fascinating. We have just been controlled. Our minds have been controlled from the moments that we were born. It's fascinating when you look at language programming and just how we are taught from, when you are tiny and you learn to speak me, mine, I, and everyone says your name, and then can you name everybody else? And so we form this idea of separation even through the programming of language. It's the more you start understanding how our world is shaped by language, and that language itself has been programmed. Every word carries a program. That is just, to me, fascinating. And there is a book called Word Magic by Pao Chang, which is fascinating. It won't be for everybody, but it is mind-blowing. And as a recovering ex-lawyer, I have really found it fascinating to study the programming around legal language. So we've all been programmed en masse with traumatizing images. If you just look at the news, again, same thing. We are just programmed all the time to believe that the world is, on fire and everybody's dying and it's all terrible and there's climate change and da da da. So while yes, there is a lot of horrific stuff, we are only ever programmed with the bad stuff. So the whole point being that if we're not in our bodies, we are dissociated because of the fear and trauma, we can't ascend. We cannot. Divinity only can come through in the now moment. It is a state of consciousness, and therefore if you are not consciously present in the body, you are dissociated, you are in the past or the future, you cannot discover your divinity. You are kept disconnected. So all the scrolling, all the numbing, all the distractions, and all the fear keeps us out of our bodies. Then there's this next paragraph, which is about any forms of mental illness. And yes, look at mental institutions. A lot of you who are listening to this will have experienced lifetimes, if not this one, in which you have been institutionalized. I did a very fascinating regression past life. I mean, I didn't intend to go into past life regression, but that's where the session went last year, and I was in a mental asylum. It was fascinating. So I was with many other healers, and probably 1500s, I'm not sure when that was, but we were all put into a mental asylum because we were healers and psychics and seers and spiritual teachers, and so we had to be suppressed, and so we were locked up. So we have these imprints of what will happen if I am thought to be losing my mind. And of course, the stuff pushed out in literature, again, it's very fearful. So these images are quite pervasive, and anyone who feels like they're losing their mind because of Ascension, I'm being shown that this is an area of expertise that I need to delve into, and I'm going to be holding a summit where a whole lot of Ascension teachers and guides and channels speak around their own awakening and the guidance around this differentiation between you're mentally ill and you're ascending, and really to break down what is going on, because there are millions of us, millions and millions and millions of us. And so what happens as we wake up to our multidimensionality is we're able to see multiple perspectives on the same situation. And as this happens, you are able to see things, as was explained, from somebody else's point of view as well. And therefore, it can feel like, okay, I'm losing my mind because I can't hold my previous one view of this. Now I'm seeing it from multiple perspectives. But it's a deeply enriching experience. And of course, then you realize that no other is other. They're just holding a different perspective. We are all part of the one. So if you imagine now a sphere, this was shown to me by the Council of Light, and in the center is this dot of time and space, this collision, and then around it is a sphere. You could be viewing this reality, that dot, from any point on the sphere. There are an infinite number of perspectives that you can take. And we are like we are these beings all over the sphere, if you think of it as the world. And we're each holding a different perspectives. And that is what makes up the richness of this earth life. Instead, we're fighting each other because of the different perspectives. But as the love starts rising, as you realize that others aren't other, all of that drops away. And the idea of forgiveness is so essential here, because when you realize that we're all just playing parts in this illusion, and that all those who have wronged you, again, another message that I have on this that I will share shortly, when you realize that everybody was just playing a part in your own drama, you cease to hold other people responsible for anything that you have been through, realizing that no matter what, no matter how heinous the crime, no matter the atrocity, at a soul level, you consented, you created this experience, and you did it for the sake of completion, because we're now nearing the end of completion of this earthly cycle. It's not going to work the same. We're not going to have more and more generations, coming in, experiencing the same thing. The whole earth game is up. And that's why we are being shown how to see through it. So your entire life experience is made up of the perspective that you take. It is a view you're taking on the story. And so start becoming aware of that when they talk about you are voicing the narration of your life. When you see whatever is in your external reality, what narration are you giving it? Oh my God, everything's not working out, everything's shit, this is da da da. Or are you like, okay, this is curious, I wonder why this is happening, I wonder where this may lead, I wonder how this is serving me. If I trust that and I have faith that I am divine, that everything is always serving me, that from this only good shall come. That's a beautiful mantra. I've used it so much in very difficult times. No matter what happens, from this only good shall come. If I hold that perspective, then I will experience the good that shall come from this. So look at a situation that you're finding difficult in your life right now, and think about the narration that you are holding of that situation. Think about the soundtrack that is playing in your mind as you look at that. Is it happy music, sad music, distraught music? What is the story that you are creating from the experience? Our feelings never come from the situation. Our feelings, these strong emotions that we have, come from the story and the meaning we have assigned that situation. So it's never from the experience itself, from the facts. Nobody's upset about the facts. We're upset about the meaning we have given these facts. And again, as an ex-lawyer, this is what I find fascinating, because no one's in court because of the facts. They're in court because of the meaning and the story they have made up about those facts. And the feelings they have are a result of the story. As guides, they explain what they're trying to do is give us another perspective on our life. So they can't come in and intervene. This is what people are like praying, oh my God, please just come in and find me the perfect partner, and please just give me a job, and please just give me some money. But they repeatedly explain to us that they are not puppet masters. They don't come in and rearrange the deck chairs. That is not how guides operate. Their role is to surround us with love and light if we let them in, if we call them in. So we have to create the relationship and to show us another way of viewing the situation, because by changing the narration and the story we hold, we then change the situation itself, because our consciousness starts projecting a different story. And then I love this. You're always spiraling, dear ones. Your Merkaba is never still. On and on you spin, miniature galaxies, each one of you. I read things like that and I still think it's interesting. My dad thinks that all of this is just me. And of course, yes, my team is part of me, because we are groups. We are not individual consciousness. We are all part of group consciousness. And that's a big subject for another time. But I look at the poetry and the profundity of these messages, and I'm like, it's amazing to me that people, including my beloved father, think that I'm just not making it up, but that this came from me, this human Amanda, when so many of these concepts are beyond human Amanda's understanding, including sometimes words that I don't understand, that I have to look up, concepts that I certainly have never delved into in this lifetime. But what a gift it is to be able to bring this through and then grapple with it and then serve it to others. So yes, we are. They can't intervene. This is a fractal classroom of consciousness that we create. They are all around us, but they are not steering what happens. We are here to learn. We do different things, and then we experiment, and we start seeing the results of our behavior and our actions. And then the whole point is we develop mastery, and we start taking different actions and different behaviors and figuring out who we are. So we are experiencing now this ego dissolution. Again, the ego is not bad, but the ego has been programmed senseless, which is why we have been trapped. So no, we're not on the ego bashing bandwagon. We're just understanding that the ego has been so heavily programmed that when you stay in ego consciousness, it's very dense, it's very contracting, it's very limiting. So sometimes we are able to move into that higher self, get the higher perspective on what's happening, and sometimes we are deeply trapped, and then of course we feel like we are going insane. So we are giving up who we have thought ourselves to be, and this is tumultuous. And then of course another facet of where we're going to feel insane is when parts of our life that were built on ego consciousness are being pulled away from us because they're no longer a match for the path that we are on. And that includes jobs and money and houses and partners and all the things. Huge amounts of loss. And I'm definitely seeing that through so many people that I'm speaking to. Huge amounts of loss. And it's very difficult to hold because being a human does entail a lot of suffering. And I would never gloss over suffering. I'm here to work with those who are at a level of being able to transcend the suffering that is caused from the mind. I'm not going to say to anybody who's experiencing utmost tragedies, suffering is all in your mind. We are human, and it is sometimes a very painful journey, and we go through many initiations. And it is only by bringing God back into our lives, remembering our God consciousness, becoming home to the light of God in which we live, the love that continually and eternally surrounds us, that we are able to find peace when the external situations are very hard and very painful. Then this message ends with, you cannot fight the process, because if we fight the process of what we're being called to let go of, that causes much suffering. We need to look at our lives with such love and gratitude for the extraordinary experience that this life has provided us with. But everything that we have been through has brought us to this now moment. So let's take a moment and just give thanks. Great gratitude for this gift of life, for everything that you may have been through, which has strengthened you. It's given you courage, grace, resilience, compassion for all those who suffer. Perhaps your path has been to help others who have suffered something similar to what you went through, which you would not have been able to do had you not been through that. So every experience that you've been through, every heartbreak, every loss, all the grief, we bless it all and thank it now for bringing us to this eternal, infinite moment of now, and this version of ourselves that we are now. And we give thanks that we are awake at this time, that we are learning to see through the illusion, that we are transcending duality, that we are coming home to God. We are starting to experience the eternal infinite light inside us, and we are starting to experience the eternal and infinite light in all humans. And as we awaken to our own love, we awaken our love for all of humanity. And this love is the most beautiful thing we will ever know. And it all starts with loving ourselves, because it is only through loving ourselves that we are able to open the heart, which is a portal to God. This is how we come home. It is through our own hearts. And so whenever the external world seems too much, the distress of world situations, your fear and anxiety around the future of our planet, political situations, whatever it is you're worried about, and if it's situations in your own life, things that are causing you a lot of grief and pain, come home to your heart. Don't abandon yourself. Come home to your heart. Love yourself through this process. Just be with yourself in a state of love, not resisting everything, even if it's for just 1 minute. And as you do so, as you come back to your body and are present in a state of love for your own sweet self, just by doing that, you start to open yourself to the infinite love that surrounds us all. I was blessed to experience Christ consciousness and this deep love for other humans that just made me cry in January 2023, and the so-called loss of that state after the 3-week period ended and I returned to normal consciousness has been one of the hardest things I've ever been through in my life. The hardest, not one of, the hardest. And yet, what a gift that I was able to have that experience. And I was shown it's a foretaste of what is to come, of what all of us are going to experience en masse, which is this awakening to the love that we are when we look at other people and literally just weep with gratitude and joy and love for each human heart that you see. So this is what awaits us. But in the meantime, we are navigating the insanity of this path of letting go of the old ways, moving into the new, and realizing we are between selves. And sometimes we have no idea who we are. And if you are one of these people, if what I've shared here today resonates with you, then Navigating the Insanity of Ascension is the series of transmissions from the Council of Light, along with my own experience of going through this blissful awakening and then being plunged into a 2-year-long dark night of the soul. It is unique. There is nothing else like this that's available, and it has brought comfort to so many people. So if you are suffering with this, all of the things that I've spoken about, I really want to offer you this medicine from my heart. And I will put a link to it below, in my bio on Instagram, under this video on YouTube, or wherever you find this. I'm sending you so much love, and I look forward to sharing more messages from the Council of Light with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being awake at this time. Thank you for being one of the 4 runners, one of the way showers during this immense, extraordinary, and wild time. Thank you.